I quit sugar, carbohydrates, and caffeine cold turkey for 30 days straight, and not for the reason that you probably think. You see, most of my life I've had a crippling addiction to sugary sweets, and that has caused my candida, psoriasis, and eczema. Sugar was the one thing that I just wanted to remove from my life because it was affecting my mental health so negatively. I was trying to get an aesthetic physique, but every time I had dinner, I would eat an entire block of chocolate and then I'd wake up and I'd feel shame and guilt. I just couldn't understand why I had it in my life. And so this led me to learn about something called parasites. Parasites are little worms that reside in your intestinal walls that are leaking and lurching off of your energy, convincing your brain to tell you that you need sugar in order to feel satiated just so they can thrive and survive and breed within inside of you. I want to forewarn you, I am not a medical professional, and anything I say in this video you should use at your own discretion if you are going to implement anything that I did personally. However, I believe that if you have been previously addicted to sugar, then what I will explain in this video might really help you, because now I have completely destroyed that side of me. I've completely destroyed that addiction because I have removed these parasites out of my body. And so it finally clicked for me. The reason why I was so deathly addicted to it was because these parasites were inside of me that were never satiated. And the only way they survive is in an acidic environment. And what creates an acidic environment? Sugar. Sugar, carbs, and caffeine. And so I went to the extreme and I quit all of these for an entire month and went on a parasite cleanse protocol. Now, if you're interested in just hearing the step-by-step, then you can skip to later in the video. If you're interested in hearing exactly week to week how I felt, then you can go to that part of the video as well. I'll tell you one thing. I went into the doctor's office because I knew that I had all of this fungus on my body. I had psoriasis, itchy scalp. I was irritable, I was moody, and I just couldn't get away from the fucking candy bars that were just controlling my entire life. It sounds really dumb, but this is exactly how I felt. I went to the doctor's office and I said, I think I have parasites in my body. And the doctor looked at me and he said, oh no, you probably don't. The West is really clean. The West, like, that only developing countries have to worry about parasites. And I sat there and I went, are you fucking serious? You must be bullshitting me. There is no way that when I was in my degenerate drunk days and I used to go out and stay out till 3 a.m. drinking vodka sodas all night, there is no way that going to the kebab store at 3 a.m. that the worker that served me my little poutine dish that I used to get didn't have some sort of parasite in the food. There is a thing called toxoplasmosis, and it is a parasite that a lot of cats have. A lot of household cats carry this one worm within them. And I was doing a bit of research, and there was a Swedish study on toxoplasmosis and the influence and behavior of humans. And there is a link between having a household cat, and if you're infected with this particular parasite, then you're more prone to having suicidal thoughts and road rage. That is just so wild to me because it's not something that is very mainstream. It's not really something that is talked about in the West. We are so convinced that these things aren't controlling our energy and that these things don't need to really be addressed, so it flies under the radar. And so what I'm saying is, if you have a cat, just throw that thing out the window. No, I'm joking, but it is something to keep in mind. And so that led me to go to the extreme. I knew that I needed to get rid of these parasites, get rid of these worms inside of me that have probably been inside of me my entire life, through quitting carbohydrates, sugar, and also caffeine for an entire month. All of these pleasures, including fruit, including espresso, including potatoes. These are my favorite foods, and I knew that I just had to give them up to discover the root of my issues, the root of why I was so addicted to sugar. And so there were two stages of this parasite cleanse protocol. The first stage was the killing and starving stage. And so this basically resulted in creating an environment where they weren't able to survive. An environment that they're not able to survive in is an alkaline environment. And so quitting caffeine especially is important if you want to go down this journey. If you related to what I said and you want to do this, then quitting caffeine, quitting sugar, including fruit, because These worms survive off of sugar, glucose, fructose. They love this stuff. So I needed to kill them off and starve them of their environment. And the second stage was the cleaning out stage. And so I took a blend of herbs that I'll put up on the screen right now. I took these herbs and it wasn't pleasant. They tasted like absolute arse. I can akin it to going to the grocery store, going into the cheap soap section, picking out a bar of soap, like a really, really cheap one, and biting into it. That's what these herbs tasted like. And so I had to do this every single day. I had to shot this herbal blend. There are different ways that you can go about doing a parasite cleanse, and there are different ways that you can take these herbs and you can tailor it to your own needs. However, this is just what I did. And so how did I feel week by week? The first week hit me like an absolute freight train. I didn't realize how much happiness and how much dopamine and serotonin that I was getting just from these certain food groups. All of these foods are so common within society, so giving them up was really a big challenge for me, and it felt like I was in a mini depression. I was low energy, I was irritable, I didn't have any sort of drive to do anything, and I didn't really want to be around people. And so my diet did a complete 180. I basically got rid of everything and I just stuck to beef, avocado, eggs, Brazil nuts, and Greek yogurt. Those were the only foods I ate for an entire month. And so it's basically a keto carnivore diet, except with the Greek yogurt and the Brazil nuts. I did also add some stevia in there, which is just a sweetener. I probably wouldn't recommend it, but I just needed to know that my dopamine receptors still worked, so a little bit of sweetener should be fine. The second week, I started to become a little bit more emotionally stable as it became a little bit more familiar with me. I was dropping weight so quickly, and the fungus that was on my skin was slowly starting to improve. And so along this journey, halfway through in the second week, I got to this point where I was like, is this really worth it? Am I going to the extreme? Is this even going to change anything in my life? And you're probably saying like, oh, don't be a pussy. It's not that hard. But if you've gone your whole life eating carbs and eating sugar, this includes fruit, and drinking caffeine, coffee, tea, and you go cold turkey on it for an entire month, it really, really does feel like you're at war with yourself. And so I was questioning, I was like, is this really worth it? Is what I'm doing going to actually pay off? And that's when it clicked in me. I was telling people what I was doing and they were like, whoa, I could never do that. That seems so difficult. Like, whoa, like, you know, people were interested in it because it was so extreme to them. And I realized that I needed to stick it out to the end because most people, the 99%, they're going to stay average. And if you're watching my videos, then you know you want to be a 1% man and you want to go to those extremes because you know that that's where success lies. And so this is a bit of an analogy that I realized halfway through my journey. Your ability to go to the extremes within discovering parts of your own self that you've never been to will equal the amount of success that follows after it. If you tiptoe through life and if you tread on eggshells all the time and you don't go to those points where you feel like you've gained a ton of confidence because you did something that is really extreme, then you'll never make a big impact in life. You'll never make a big impact in this world because people won't find you inspiring, because in order to have a big impact, you need to walk your own path and you need to inherently be the alpha leader and tread the path first and pave the way. And so I'm getting a little bit off topic, but I just thought I needed to mention that. And so I was feeling really down in my second week, and then the third week came around. This was when the light at the end of the tunnel reached me. I got to this point and I finally passed these parasites through my system. If you're wondering how could I tell, then I wish I took a photo of my toilet bowl, because trust me, you probably don't want to see it. But it's so wild when you think that, oh yeah, I don't have parasites, but then you see worms outside of you that you knew were inside of you most of your life. When you see that outside of you, it really opens your eyes and opens your awareness. The brain fog that I had for the first 2 weeks had finally lifted, and I just felt like I had been baptized, because there was no part of me that wanted to return to any of the sugar or any of the old addictive tendencies that I had prior to the parasite cleanse, because there isn't this succubus-like thing inside of me leeching off of my energy and convincing me of being a person that I simply didn't want to be, and I knew I wasn't. It stabilized to a point when I could keep going on this keto carnivore diet, and I could keep going on, the routine that I had within this cleanse. But I felt as though by the fourth week, it was kind of like a steady decline, and I didn't really experience any benefits after that, after I had cleansed these worms out of my system. I still stuck out to the fourth week because I felt as though I made a commitment to myself, and if I don't follow through, then I will lose trust in myself. And so I followed through, and I got to the end of the 30 days without sugar, without carbohydrates, and without espresso. Espresso's so good. And bro, I got a piece of fruit. I got a mango and a pear, and I had a couple of strawberries after this, and it was like absolute ecstasy in my mouth. It was like the most grateful I've ever been for an experience, was eating that first piece of fruit after this whole month of not having any sugar at all. And so this brings me to, what did I actually learn? What were the things that I realized from this experience? The biggest thing was your gut dictates everything. I uploaded a video recently talking about how your glow up routine with all these cleanses and everything are actually like harming you and are actually killing your testosterone. And a lot of people commented saying that, oh, I have a skin issue, I have this. And the one thing I always say is address your gut health first. The health of your gut is the thing that is going to determine how attractive you are, how much focus you have, how much clarity you have within your life and who you are. It is the second brain. And the reason why I'm speaking to you in this moment is from doing this cleanse. It cascaded a lot more in my life than I realized at the time. It gave me the clarity and the energy to know exactly what I want to do, where I want to be in life, and who I want to be around. And so you'll notice that if you do partake on this journey and you did relate to having a sugar addiction, having all these issues, and you want to maybe implement this into your life, then just believe what will happen after this period. If you've been stuck in a rut, then you need to go to that extreme and cut whatever is really harming you out of your life, whether it's the sugar, whether it's the carbs, whether it's the porn, whatever it is. Cut it out of your life for a period of time, knowing that it's temporary, knowing that if you go to that place, then you will come out on the other side with so much more success that was lying beneath the surface that you weren't able to tap into. The second thing I learned is sugar isn't bad for you. I feel like natural sugar gets demonized quite a lot. The thing that is really bad for you and is absolutely poisonous is these artificial sugars and these things that are made in a chemical lab. Sugar isn't bad for you because honey is God's creation. Fruit is God's divine design. And so by respecting God's divine design and staying within natural sugars and having as much honey as you want, sticking to those things isn't going to be a bad thing. And I would actually encourage you to eat more natural sugar. Just swapping the candy and the sweets and the chocolate with God's natural creations has been absolutely massive for my energy, my mood, my body composition, and just overall my happiness and my fulfillment. I now know that I will never go back to any plastic degenerate packaged foods ever again. That shit is poison. Get that away from me. Someone offers me a cookie, fuck you. Number 3, there is more beneath the surface than you realize. I thought I could just use my willpower and force improvement in my life. And I thought that I just needed more information and more knowledge in order to make something of myself. But in reality, there was a lot more that I wasn't addressing that was beneath the surface, that was almost feeling like I was trying to push a boulder up a mountain. And it simply just took removing these things from my life that weren't serving me to cascade all of the change in my life. And so as above, so below. That's a huge philosophy that I now preach, and that's why I preach focusing on your physical health before you can transcend and focus on like your business or earning money and these kind of things. That once you've leveled up your physical health, then all of these other things will come naturally. And while these YouTube videos haven't come naturally to me at first, I have now stepped into that mode of being an entrepreneur, being someone that can provide value. And that was cascaded, and that started through focusing on these things, these parasites that were inside of me. And I want to say that I'm willing to be put in a position where I am villainized for the information that I've given in this video. And I've gotten to this point when I just don't care, because I know it's my truth and I'm speaking from my truthful self rather than the evidence And you could call that bro science. I've been called the king of bro science before. But the thing is I'm here speaking to you now because I genuinely believe that what I did back in September, which is when I did this Parasite cleanse, the reason I'm speaking to you now, because I have released this thing that hasn't served me. I simply want to invite you with my work and with this channel is to just come back to yourself and come back to your intuitive knowing of what you know to be true. And so just be curious about how you feel about certain topics that you want to improve in your life. And that's about it. This video has been something that I have refilmed 5 times now. It just felt like there was so much resistance towards it because this experience was so profound and I wanted to get everything into the one package and make sure that it was cohesive and clear. I would love your feedback on it. If you feel like this resonated with you, then I'd really appreciate it if you go down and drop a like on this video. And if you want to follow a somewhat unconventional YouTuber that provides esoteric health advice and advice to improve your life for the absolute better and permanently change everything that you're going through, consider hitting subscribe. I will see you on the next one.